everyone, and welcome to this new conversation of excellence. My name is Stella Bida, and I am very, very excited for today's conversation. We truly have someone who is very dear to me, Rania Hoteit. Rania is an award winning serial entrepreneur. She's an author, an advisor, but she's also a global leader and providing so much impact across the world, both for the person that she is, the leader that she is, but also through her business. She's the CEO and the founder of ID4A Technologies, which is a company which has been globally recognized, whether it is through the White House Office Science Technology. It's been listed as one of America's fastest growing private company, or just in 2020, being awarded as one of the best automated manufacturing technology company. Hanya is phenomenal, and I'm so excited that she accepted to spend the next minutes with her. And she's much, much more than that. She's much more than that. She is an incredible human being. There's just so many things to say about her. Hanya, I have to welcome you. Otherwise, we'll not start. But welcome, Hanya.
Thank you so much, Stella. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today. Thank you so much.
It's a great pleasure for me too. Hanya, I'm excited. And I was wondering before we actually start our conversation, is there anything that you would like the people who are listening to you to know about you before we actually start?
Honestly, I don't want people to know anything about me. I'm an extremely private person.
Wow.
But just to break the ice. But well, I want people to know what I really want people to know about me, that I am who I am. So whatever you see is who I am. I'm always my most authentic self in any situation with anyone, whether that is the CEO of a major company or someone walking on the street that I've never met before. So I want people to know that they can approach me anytime, that I am a very down-to-earth person, and that I truly care about connecting with other people. And I'm always myself. So they'll never have to guess. Once they start to know me or listen to me, they don't have to really guess who I am. I don't hide myself, although I'm a very private person. So.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I can say that this is very true. The first time I met you, you were such a present person. So just so Hanya.
Thank you.
Just
Thank
so
you.
you. And the first question I want to ask concerning that, the fact that you own the fact that you own who you are. I was wondering, did you have to somewhere along your journey redefine who you truly are? Or or was it always present?
I would say it's a mixture of both. When I was growing up, when I was much younger, at a very young age, I had a very strong sense of identity. I had my own mind. I wanted to do things my own way. I would make my own choices. I was not the easiest kid to have, especially as a first child. And my parents did not have an experience with a kid who was very strong-willed and strong-headed like that. But at the same time, I have evolved so much. So I'm continuously reshaping and redefining my identity within the parameters of my authentic foundation. So who I am, that I've always known, and I would say my best qualities that at least I qualify as good qualities, have always been preserved, but I've been working on myself constantly to redefine who I am, in the sense of looking at every shadow aspect, every barrier, every blockage, every internal struggle, every fear, and redefining my identity in the sense of um, trying to refine myself and becoming better and better every single day. Not changing in the sense of losing my authentic and foundational self that I've known since I was a child, but adding to it and refining it and making sure that every step of the way I'm learning and evolving to be better and better and better. Because it's our identities are never set in stone, and if we ever look at ourselves as a static object or a static sculpture of some sort, then we can never evolve and change and adapt to how the world is evolving and changing around us. So we have to be as dynamic in the way we shape our identities, just as the world and the universe around us is as dynamic and complex. So we have to respond to our environment in respect to what we are also capable of in terms of change.
Mm. I love it. I love that you talked about the foundation structure that you have, and it's beautiful. When you mention that we're not, our identity is not set in stone, and we kind of are adapting also to the changes which are occurring around us. And when you say that, I'm thinking about this moment, the COVID and all the changes, the uncertainty, etc. And you're such a great leader, and I'm convinced you're the right person to ask that question too. What are for you the skills that leaders need to develop now more than ever to drive the conversations of change forward?
This is a great question. I think to start off, about leadership itself, I believe that leadership is both an art form and a science. So it requires creativity as much as it requires knowledge of human psychology in order to establish a healthy and productive connection amongst people and with them. So whether we are in a situation of challenge like we are going through right now, or crises, I think we are always in crisis mode. I don't think we are ever not in crisis. I think just the level of the severity of crisis changes from day to day. But if you look at our daily life, there's always a challenge that we're facing, and it might be very small, but it will require the exact same attitude and skills to deal with something much, much bigger. The problem is that most leaders, they emphasize, for example, and again, back to leadership, I think most leaders emphasize so much on developing their visionary or practical and strategic thinking skills, but they often fail to master the interpersonal skills, and they struggle to effectively interact and communicate and listen and empathize with others, especially in times of challenges like this, when you have a higher level of severity of the crises. You need to have more of those skills in order to deal with the challenges and also bring people along the journey with you. I think that while empathy has a major impact on the ultimate success or failure in leadership, because it builds character traits like trustworthiness, like relatedness, respectfulness, caring, and fairness, I think it's the most critical driver for any leader's overall performance. And we've seen many, many examples in recent years, and many examples during this crisis of leaders who were still in the spotlight, were still trying to get their moment of fame, whether that is due to their great business schemes that they're kind of leveraging all the time, or they're being able to take advantage of the situation in order to grow their businesses. But while their people leadership failures are continuously ignored, And we've seen that a lot during this crisis as well, where some companies have been growing in business, but a lot of gaps are also emerging, but they're being ignored when it comes to how they're treating their employees and how employees are being treated in times of crisis, and how certain rights are being violated, or certain safety measures are being completely ignored as well. So when leaders have the ability to empathize, not only do they involve and engage their people more effectively, but they can lead their teams and organizations to the most successful stages of business growth and the highest levels of innovation, especially in times of crises, but without compromising on the quality of the interpersonal and the quality of the human interactions that they're producing while managing in crises. So, that's really how I'm looking at leadership in the times we're in, but also, like I mentioned, this crisis might be big, but every day we have different levels of challenges that we have to deal with. And if we cannot gather these skills of empathy and mastering interpersonal skills to interact and communicate and empathize and listen, we will continuously fail to lead effectively. So forget about leading in times of crisis. You would just fail in general, even if you're being able to grow your wealth or growing the business, you're still making huge sacrifices on the human front.
It's really interesting what you're bringing forward, the empathy, the interpersonal skills. And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about some of the companies I work with, which are more tech related. And I know that you were the CEO and the founder of a global tech company. And sometimes I have the feeling, I don't know for you, that the tech companies are focused on the tech and might tend to forget the importance of these interpersonal skills, the empathy. Sometimes it's a challenge. It was already a challenge before COVID, and now it's even a bigger of a challenge. But to come to my question, what is your perspective on how can actually these leading tech companies can balance the human side, the interpersonal side, the soft skills? By the way, I don't like soft, that word. It's like it's not important. How can they balance that part with the hard tech, automotive, and technology part? How do we balance both systems and people, according to you?
Sure. Let me just add to the point that you just made before the question, before answering the question. When you were talking about the also human interactions when it comes to bigger tech companies, back to the topic of empathy particularly, there is plenty of substantial evidence on the correlation between empathy and performance. So if we do look at the companies that were top rated at the Global Empathy Index, including Microsoft and Facebook and Tesla and Google, we see that they have been generating 50% more earnings per employee than those that are at the bottom of the index. So empathy isn't only fundamental to elevating the quality of human interactions at a societal level, but it's also critical for business growth and leadership success. Not every tech company has been successful at achieving this, but the ones who have been, they have been able to generate more earnings per employee than those that are not. To go back to the question that you mentioned about balancing the people and the systems and what I think about that, I think it really, at the end of the day, as a business leader, whether you are in the executive suite as a founder or in any other level of management, you need to be able to set up the necessary procedures and processes to operate. So automation at this point is at the top priority in order to increase efficiency in operations and also in the way companies interact with their customers and in the way they facilitate collaboration amongst their teams and their leadership teams as well. But if you are aiming for innovation within your company, there are some serious barriers that organizations face, and they have to take steps to make innovation part of their strategic planning to encourage innovation without overloading the process with structure and micro measurements. So when it comes to balancing the systems and the people, I think that the human aspect, bringing in a sense of humanity with a heightened sense of empathy, it doesn't really happen, and you will not be able to also leverage that in order to increase innovation within your organization when you have systems that are rigid, when you have rigid structures, for example. So industries that lean towards being more formal or rigid or using the rule run will find that allowing innovative thinking inside their walls is going to require a change in thinking for everyone. So at the end, it's really about what you're trying to achieve within your organization. And when it comes to balancing, again, the people and the systems, there will be no balance created if you're not allowing the freedom to play, to explore, to invent, to create an atmosphere that encourages people to be given the time and space and the financial backing to create. And also to bring the understanding that the creative mind is fueled by the environment. So if you're trying to achieve innovation, you have to understand the creative mind. You have to understand that the creative mind is fueled by the environment, by the sensory input, the give and take of others, and the need for play. And this can be a difficult journey for any company to walk through. For leaders, they're going to have to remove some of these rules. They have to write different policies. They have to develop an organization that allows its members to be open, to be free to play, and work towards forming ideas that are clever and innovative and exciting. So again, it's really about what you're trying to achieve. But if you want to be this innovative tech company and you want to be able to grow and scale by leveraging not only business strategy, but also human psychology and strategies that can elevate empathy, and through empathy fuel the business growth and create a more healthy and innovative environment that feeds back into the business. All these things are connected. Another thing that I'd like to mention as well, and I know this is getting a bit long of an answer.
It's great, Rania. I think so insightful.
Because it's a very complex topic when we talk about balancing people and systems. The second mindset that's a challenge, or that I consider to be a major barrier, also when you have a logical mindset. Most leaders that are not very creatively oriented, they do have the struggle with thinking that logic or running a company with pure logic is the way to go. A company that runs on pure logic will never take risks. It's not logical. Innovation will really need a place with less form, with less structure, and with less logical thinking. Because again, creative minds are more likely to break the rules that bind them. They do not run after practical ideas. Innovative people make connections where none really seem to be. It does not make any sense. So those with logical mindsets will also find it difficult or improbable to be innovative. Yeah. And therefore, there will be no balance between the system that's being created and the people and the potential that the people can bring into the system that can help the organization to grow and to innovate and to compete in a highly competitive space, which is, in technology and even other fields. So leaders have to be able to build decentralized and more low in complexity and formality types of structures if they want to be able to promote an environment of innovation that can lead to the ultimate fast growth that they all dream to achieve. So at the end, again, that's a third end that I'm trying to get to, but
we're following you, Rania. We're there.
But there needs to be, if there is one mindset shift that needs to take place, is to be able to if there is a one mindset shift that needs to take place in order to effectively lead change, I think is being able to break through these barriers that stand in the way of innovation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for all the insights you gave, and you gave the link between the empathy, the growth of the company, the space that is needed to be created, the challenge of having logical thinking. That is like a 360-degree view. And thank you very, very much for that. And I'm going to jump on, you talked a lot about creating that space of play.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to jump on the space that we need to create as leaders for people. Nowadays, with the COVID, how do you think that we can create safe spaces for people to truly share themselves, especially with all the personal challenges that today we're all finally kind of bringing to the business side? It's like everything is mixed up. How do we create a safe space where people can authentically share themselves with all that uncertainty?
One of now, especially during the last almost over a year now, our entire team has been working remotely. Mm-hmm. The only people that are working on the ground are the people that are working in our R&D facility in Palo Alto, California. Mm. Everyone else in 11 cities around the world, we have 334 employees, majority working from home or from particular spaces that we had assigned for them to go work from. Mm. The first thing that we were able to do, and I'm only speaking about our case to bring an example of how you can actually achieve that. The first thing we did is we were like, okay, now we're going to have, we already were set up in a very remote type of environment because we had set up our systems this way to enable people to work anywhere and to be able to move around without having to be in one place. Because we are a technology company, we want to be able to implement the most technologically advanced tools, not only for our clients and the technologies that we develop for them, but also in the way we interact and do business and operate internally as well. Mm-hmm. So having that kind of system that already enabled us to interact and engage and collaborate digitally and remotely from anywhere, we were like, okay, we already have this foundation, we already have the setup. Let's maximize how we could use it by bringing in all the different activities and the programs that we used to do on site, mm-hmm. bring it also online, where we would have our coaching programs with our teams online, where we would bring them in circles and then circles of safe conversations to mm-hmm. share what's going on with them at a personal level, what each family is going through, people that have been struggling, that some people got sick, some people mm-hmm. lost family members, some people, were struggling so much to maintain their livelihood as well. So they were trying to support other members of their family. So there was a lot that we understood that people are going through. And we didn't want to kind of brush it off and pretend that there is no human side to every single employee that we have who are struggling in their own way that is very relatable to all of us, despite of where we live, what level we have in the careers and in the company. We are all struggling in similar ways, and we could take it as an opportunity to get closer while we're physically apart. So in this environment, I think it's very possible and it really works, and it's been working for us, is while we are setting up expectations and goals to achieve at the financial front and at delivering to the client's front and fulfilling our promises and our contracts, we want to make sure we fulfill the promise to our teams and employees, and every leader is responsible to do that by giving them the space to be human. Have those meetings online, bring coaches, bring mental health experts, bring financial advisors, bring healers, bring speakers, bring anyone that you think can add some value to enlighten, to support, to uplift, to heal, to help people process certain challenges that they're going through, and make it also as part of creating more bonding amongst the team, where they can start to see each other in a much more with a much more human perspective. So that's what I would say. I would say just you're already meeting with your teams online, and you're already working remotely if you are, and you don't have to be in a physical space. Try to integrate new types of activities within your time together, where you bring in the humanity in each of your team members, and you can help people feel heard and feel that they are understood and that they are empathized with, and that you are doing your job as a leader by making them feel safe and connected and driven and motivated to continue to deliver to the growth and the sustainability of the business.
Wow.
That's that.
It's beautiful. I love the way you nuanced the leadership aspect on the human side, both on the human side and both on the sustainability of the business. Like we keep delivering, but we're using also this opportunity to get closer to each other. It's great. I love the way you balance both, and thank you for your insights, Rania. I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy for this conversation. It's very insightful.
Oh,
It's such a challenge
I'm very happy.
in teams, keeping
Thank
that
you so
emotional
much.
bonding. And I love the way you brought that up. Sorry,
Thank you. Yeah,
I cut you, but go ahead, please.
No, I caught you too. I apologize. I really think that a lot of people that are leading in businesses, whether they are at the micromanagement level or they are at the executive or board member level, they're all, I believe that most people, I'm not going to generalize and say most people are starting to understand that there needs to be a mindset shift in order to be effectively leading change. Years ago, I read The Prince. It's a political treatise by Niccolo Machiavelli, in which he wrote, "There is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things." And this statement can't be any more relevant to our time. I truly believe that, because the one mindset shift that needs to take place is to step away from the control, the hands-on approaches, the expectations that people need to just deliver and deliver on the goals or on the financial goals of the company, and assume a leadership role in a completely new way, where we are really achieving the results by investing in the human aspect of the organization, not vice versa, not trying to exploit, not to exploit people's skills in order to achieve the financial results, is to exploit the opportunity to create more connectivity and more empathy and more togetherness and more collaboration in order to help the individuals within the walls of the organization to thrive with the skills that they already have. And therefore, as they thrive mentally and psychologically and emotionally, they can start to deliver on the practical front and help you achieve your goals as an organization. That's, at the end of the day, this is a business that needs to hit certain financial goals and thrive economically as well.
I love that you brought up the subtlety and that you positioned the delivery as a consequence of the fact that the human level is taken into account.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a consequence, a flow, a easy flow consequence, easy in quotes, of course, but I love the way you positioned it like that. Subtle, but so important nowadays to understand. And I'm very happy you brought that up. Very insightful.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that for a leader, like, your effectiveness and leading change will be determined by your success to turn strangers into passionate believers, inspired supporters, and empowered individuals who will participate in bringing your vision to life and making the change happen. So the focus needs to shift from being at the center of it all on your own to becoming the power source that drives other people by providing the energy, the direction, the vision, the inspiration, the motivation, and a system to follow that is not rigid, that is not solely logically based. And of course, all that will require a communication mindset to shift as well in order to be able to clearly and effectively connect with people at that level and achieve that change effectively as well.
What you're sharing is gold. It's really, really gold. And you know what you're talking about. You know, when you're talking, we can see like, you know, the pieces put together, and the subtlety that you bring forward is so powerful. So thank you very much for that, Rania. And I'm going to take, sorry, I'm just so enthusiastic. I'm like, oh, the next question. I'm like, this one. But thank you really, truly for your insights.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to take the word, you use the word power source. Leaders who are power sources to inspire others in the doing. And I'm thinking about one of these things that you spend so much time doing, which is being a power source for girls and women in science and technology. Why do you spend so much time doing that? I can only imagine, okay, the fact that there are not many of them in that domain, but what is like the underlying reason beyond that you take so much time in that, being a power source for these girls and women in technology?
Yeah. Thank you for asking this question. I think it's very important to always highlight the issues because they're ongoing and unresolved up until now when it comes to the inequality and inequity issues that women and girls face, especially in STEM fields. Before I talk about me, I want to say this. Women face more complex consideration sets and societal pressures throughout their entire life, in addition to gender barriers that are still contributing to increased disparities on many levels. And this is really one of the main reasons for me, and the biggest motivation is looking at how can we, knowing these facts, knowing that this is our reality up until today, and this will be the reality of our children as well,
Mm.
um, if we don't tackle these issues. And I always think about what would be the best way to empower the next generation. I believe that we have to make radical changes to alleviate pressures and resolve all the barriers across areas of society. From a very young age, girls can be surrounded by expectations that are destructive to their self worth
Mm.
due to all kinds of implied undercurrents that are embodied by traditional gender stereotypes related to their intelligence,
Mhm.
stamina, appearance, courage, strength, and even the careers or the path for success that they are expected to conform to. So, with all that in mind, and with all that as a reality, no wonder we have these same issues or the disparities that are happening in STEM fields, for example.
Mm.
I think that we have to examine the social climate and the state of the economy and what women will face in the future if gender barriers remain unresolved. It is crucial to nurture the self confidence in girls from an early age by encouraging them to develop independence of mind,
Mm.
to express themselves freely, to debate their views openly and stand up for themselves, and also to enjoy challenges and not shy away from them, because as a female, you're supposed to be more submissive or less confrontational or less headstrong or ambitious.
Mm.
Also, when we have, I think, positive cooperation and partnership with men, this is a key for the transformation, along with having more female role models from different social and professional spheres for the younger generations of women to lean on and be inspired by. Um, Personally, to go back to my story,
Mhm.
my experience personally has been full of challenges and obstacles since I started my career and entrepreneurial journey. I was a full time student
Mhm.
in college. I was a young immigrant that came to the United States alone. I had no money, I had no family, I had no support. So, on top of these challenges of being a young woman immigrant, um, and then going into these different fields or into male dominated fields, I had to break through many gender barriers and confront biases that kind of, especially in the early stages of growing my business and establishing my thought leadership, breaking through barriers became like a full-time sport, to be honest. So
Wow.
it was kind of like, you practice and you get better, but it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
um
It's like you
so
practice,
you're
you don't get better,
right.
but the challenges get more, more tough.
Exactly. Exactly,
Wow.
because the more you go up the ladder in your
Yeah.
career, the tougher the situations get,
Exactly.
the more difficult the conversations become, the more criticism you're going to be kind of vulnerable to,
Mm.
and you're more seen. So people can point more fingers and have more to say about you because now you're much more visible than you used to be when you were a little girl in school or when you were a student in college. So staying the course and forging ahead full force has also been incredibly rewarding for me because I was determined to build a successful business and an impactful brand,
Yeah.
and was unapologetically ambitious when it comes to achieving my own goals. So So those are the things that helped me, and those are the things that I believe that we can teach girls, and we could teach other younger women who are trying to create something for themselves, whether that is building a career or building a business. If we can teach them the courage to break their own stereotypes and teach them also the value of developing their own independence and their own sense of identity and definition of success, then our next generation of women will be empowered with resilience, with self confidence, with adaptability to navigate new paths, with the adaptability also to size opportunities and to become leaders and shapers in our societies who can enable the same sense of meaning and purpose, not only for other women and girls, but for everyone around them, regardless of the gender. And this is really what drives me to do what I do, or to be more vocal about these issues, or to be an active, not only advocate, but also an active investor in initiatives and projects and organizations that are championing girls and women and supporting women-led businesses as well. So just knowing where we are, where we need to be, and what responsibilities we have, each one of us, especially as women who have been through the challenges we have been through, and we've been able to build the success we've been able to build, I feel that this is a moral obligation for us to tune in to what's happening, what's still happening out there, and participate in a way where we could facilitate the advancement and the success of the successes of other women, because they deserve talented, driven, and intelligent women deserve opportunities to lead, and societies do need their leadership in order to thrive. Therefore, we all need to take responsibility of creating entire organizational structures and cultures to support women's advancement and leadership and STEM within companies, within society, to ensure that they have the best chances to do so. I take responsibility from my own position, and I invite everyone, men and women, who have been able to achieve a certain level of success for themselves, or a certain level of influence that they could leverage to bring positive change, to participate in this conversation and be more active members on the ground as well, so we could create this change together. So those are my thoughts on this.
Thank you for sharing. I love the fact that you brought up the partnership with men as well into the transformation of this conversation and the participation, active participation of it. Love the fact that you brought up the fact that we are, each and every one of us is responsible in the active, in building that future, for that present and the future for the girls and the women in STEM. When you were talking, to be honest, there was a moment you talked about all the cultural aspect with girls and women, the definition which is already there, and they have to kind of redefine at a certain moment their own definition of their existence. And you talked about visibility. That one, I must admit, I was like, oh no, go under the table, Stella, because where's my table? No.
Not yet, Stella.
No, I don't want to. And the goosebumps I had at that moment, because it's one of these words, I don't know for you, but often I meet talented, beautiful, powerful women who the word visibility it's like, oh, and I'm one of these. Huh? I'm working on it. It's just like, no, no, no. I prefer to be, like the way we've asked me to be since I was a little girl. And thank you for bringing that up. That's all I want to say. But when I heard visibility and building my, oh my God, I was like, no. I could see my whole journey up to now with everything I had to work on, to be able to even take to use my leadership abilities, to do what I do. It's such a whole journey. It's work. It's a lot of work. So I thank you for your contribution in bringing that forward.
Thank you for sharing as well on your end. So, Stella, let me say this. Well, for someone who has like all kinds of struggles with being visible, I think you're doing an incredible job. An incredible job. Those are the things that people don't see. The things that I kind of highlighted earlier, the internal struggles, the internal barriers, the internal sufferings and anxieties and the fears that we deal with. Those are the things that you face and confront, your demons, the ones that you go to bed with, that no one will ever see, no one will ever hear but yourself. And those are the ones that you're dealing with on everyday basis. And those are the ones that you are dealing with in every situation that feels uncomfortable, or every event that comes your way where you need to shift and behave differently, but you don't know how yet. And you're trying to figure out what to do and how to be and how to break through these barriers in order to put yourself out there, and in order to become more visible and to express yourself and to really bring your gifts to the world, because you cannot make your gifts accessible if you're invisible.
Mm.
So thank you for doing the work, and I know you're going to keep doing the work. I'm working every single day. I mean, I just had my own, mini new dark night of the soul experience this past weekend, over a
Sorry,
few things that I was, I had to overcome. And it's always a reminder, and it's a humbling thing when you start looking back within yourself and you have to work on fears that you either didn't know existed or that you thought you had worked through, but they were not fully resolved. And then you look within and you have the courage, and you just look at your shadows and you just tell yourself, your shadows are beautiful too. And I embrace you and I accept you, and I need to work through you so I could step into the light. And it's a constant battle. But when you have the strength like yourself, when you have the courage like yourself, when you have the determination to leverage your skills and acknowledge your gifts and acknowledge the value that you owe to the world, you owe it to the world. These gifts have been given to you so you can give them back. So it's a betrayal of self when you don't. And it's a betrayal, I believe, to life, that you were brought here and you didn't step into your life and brought your gifts. So thank you for doing the work. And I hope everyone realizes the importance of doing that, so they could share themselves and all the gifts and skills and talents and the value that they can bring, simply by overcoming the barrier of fear of visibility, or fear of taking leadership in any way or form, whether that is in their lives or in leading others, and make that leap, take that leap, so you could give what you owe back, which is everything that you are created with.
It's beautiful what you said, Rania. For me personally, but also I know for the people listening. Yeah, yeah, what you shared ignited something in me. And I'm actually happy that you're spending time with us because you're really a leader of excellence. You're really a leader of excellence. And I am grateful to have met you, to be inspired by you. And in these moments of darkness that you talked about, to remind myself, that that conversation with Rania, let me get back to it and listen to it again. So I'm so
Thank
grateful.
you.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
words. It's
Thank you. I'm
important.
grateful for the opportunity to have this conversation with you, and thank you for listening, and thank you for giving me the space to share my thoughts as well. I really appreciate that.
Mm. Oh, I would stay here for like hours, but I'm also, mindful of the time. And I wanted to
Um,
ask one of the last questions before we end.
mm,
We talked a lot about girls and childhood, and this brings me to that question related to childhood that I love to ask. Um, if you had Rania of 10 years old with you right now, what would you tell her?
oh, I didn't have a very easy childhood, so
Mm,
um, I think the main thing I would tell my 10 years old self is that um, don't take so much responsibility on yourself. Um, don't be scared of your own powers,
oh,
and um, and don't ever compromise your abilities or your gifts to make other people feel less intimidated by everything that you are. And don't take life too seriously as well. I didn't, again, like I did not have an easy childhood. I lived through war when I was a kid. We were displaced. We lost people. We saw so many tragic experiences that happened with us and to others. So I didn't have an easy upbringing in any single way, not in our household, not in the environment we were living in, not in the country I came from. So, I experienced a lot of instability and a lot of trauma very early on. So when you're so young and you see so much happen around you, you grow up very fast and you start thinking about the world in very serious ways, and you start to skip steps on your way to becoming more self-sufficient and on the way of carving your path and securing yourself and building to yourself what maybe your family couldn't give you, or what your environment couldn't provide for you, or what your country wasn't able to set up for you in terms of systems that could enable your growth as an individual or as a citizen. So those are really the things. Don't take life too seriously. Don't take too much responsibility. Um, don't dim your light, and don't be scared of your own powers.
wow. At 10 years old, don't be scared of your own power.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a powerful one. Whew, what a conversation. This, uh, thank you so much for sharing that. Well, it's beautiful. It's beautiful for the people who are listening. I'm just so grateful for these precious minutes. I will personally re-listen to this conversation, to be honest. Like put in the
Thank you so much.
chapters and come back to it. Don't be
Thank
scared
you
of
so
your own
much.
power. Wow. Hmm.
It's
Ah,
I think at that when you're young, sometimes I really believe that every child is born because as an adult you do, right? Like as an adult you realize you have gifts and you have skills and you have talents, but the
Mhm.
reality is you always had them. You always had them. Maybe others didn't see them in you when you were so little. Maybe they did, but they ignored them. Maybe you did, but because others ignored them, so you thought they're not valuable. Um, so
Yeah.
we go through these cycles when we're so young, where our perception of self is very dependent on how others treat us, or how others uh, speak with us, or what others gives us or don't. And our sense of identity, or not necessarily identity, but our self perception becomes very much influenced by these nuances of behaviors that people kind of project on us, whether that is good or bad. Like as a child, if you have a talent that's just emerging, like a little spark of something, and you have a support system that sees that little spark and fuels the fire in order to make it bigger, you have a completely different sense of self perception than when you are a child with a little spark that someone else is either blowing some air on to just, or they're just ignoring, doesn't exist
Mhm.
until it just starts to fade away. It's a very different relationship that you'll have with yourself when you're that young and you have superpowers or you have gifts or you have talents, but you don't necessarily have the support system that can help you to to grow and to shine those gifts. So you have to go through your own journey to
Yeah.
discover that and to claim those powers. Because as you grow, your self perception becomes much more inwardly, I would say, if you're evolving in the healthy way,
Mhm.
rather than being more dependent on others and
Mm.
how they treat you and perceive you and project on you. So you either know your powers when you're young and you have the support to expand on them so early, or you discover that don't be scared of your own powers. And even if you didn't have the support and you didn't have the right self perception at that age, you have the opportunity to claim that power anytime in the future.
Beautiful.
But that's
Oh wow, Hanya, you're gifting us so much, so much. And it's already the end. And I always leave the end, the last question, as an open floor to anything you think I've maybe not asked, or anything you think you would want to bring forward for people to understand that everyone has the capacity to kind of step into their leadership abilities, um, with authenticity and the way with their whole self. Yeah. Is there anything we haven't touched on or anything you think is important to bring forward? It's a kind of open and free floor.
I honestly, I think I've said a lot.
Yes,
I think I
I
said more than
agree.
what the questions are.
I
So I
agree.
don't
You
want,
said so much, Hanya. You did.
but
You did.
but
Oh,
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. C'était un grand plaisir de te joindre aujourd'hui, Stella. J'espère que tout le monde s'amuse en écoutant notre conversation d'excellence. Je t'apprécie profondément. Merci beaucoup. C'est
oh.
tout.
And you did it in French. Merci, Rania.
Merci à toi.
Oh, c'est magnifique. C'est magnifique. Thank you very, very much for your precious time, Rania. This is
Thank you so
precious.
much.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Really, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for having me one more time. And I truly hope that everyone who listens to our conversation enjoys and finds value. And to translate again for others who didn't understand what I just said, I truly appreciate you and thank you so much for having me today on this beautiful conversation of excellence with you.